Joining me now, former U.S. Border Patrol Chief and former acting ICE Director Ronald Vitiello. Ron, good morning to you. The Secretary also called the crisis a, quote, regional challenge. What do you say?
Well, and he also said he's doing a good job. I'm wondering what planet he's on. What is he seeing? You know, this administration regularly puts people on television in the context of press and says that they're doing a good job. Don't believe your own eyes. You know, there's 6,000 to 8,000 people trying to cross the border illegally every 24 hours. That's the encounter numbers at CBP. They're not doing a good job. They've instituted the largest surge on the southwest border in the history of that border. I don't know what planet they're living on, but that border is in total chaos. Nobody's winning here. You know, the cartels are enriching themselves based on the flow, this flow of humanity that's coming to the border every 24 hours. They're not helping us. They're putting us all at risk. You know, when you have that kind of chaos on the border, it hurts those local communities. You know, think about the workforce, the men and women of DHS and their families, how stressed out they are because they have this unbelievable workload with no end in sight.
Well, and I keep thinking about those migrants that died in that truck last week. That was devastating what happened, but that is what's happening every week. These farmers, in particular, down along the Texas border are finding dead migrants. I mean, it is a humanitarian crisis, but oh no. According to Mayorkas, they're doing a good job, and it's a regional problem. And I don't want to stay with this because you've got a new study out that labels the crossing between the U.S. and the Mexico border the deadliest land route in the world. The Missing Migrants Project recorded at least 1,238 deaths during migration just in 2021, more than 700 on the border alone. Now, you've got three counties in Texas. They're expected to declare a border emergency today over the record amount of crossings. Ron, your thoughts on all of that?
Well, especially this time of year, it's dangerous to cross the border, right? We want to warn people about that. Yeah, I think the government does, you know, some information downrange to tell people how dangerous it is. But when you encourage this kind of chaos, when your policy is effectively an open border, you're going to have increased misery across the board. You're going to have human trafficking. You're going to have people who are picked off in the pipeline. You're going to put money in the pockets of corrupt governments and corrupt government officials as people are making their way to the border. And the border's dangerous. You know, places like Arizona, deep South Texas, it's really hot out there. There's not a lot of water sources in the middle of nowhere. That's where these people sometimes choose to cross. That's where the smugglers will drag them out into the middle of nowhere and leave them behind. It's always been dangerous. But when you add this kind of volume, you're going to get more death, you're going to get more misery, and you're going to get more risk to the homeland.
Yeah, and Angela Morabito, you know, they seem to be continuing to ignore the fact that it is the smugglers that are winning the war down at the border. And it is a war, Angela, to be clear.
That's exactly right, and it's a war the Biden administration, unfortunately, has very little interest in fighting. So my concern is, what does the future of the border look like? Right now, it is wide open, but years from now, what could be done, and what can be done to reverse the tidal wave of drugs and crime that is coming into this country? Because it is more than a border crisis. It is also a drug crisis, and an open border is bad for everyone. At this point, every state in the country is a border state, and it's thanks to this administration's failed policies.
Ron, last question to you.
I agree. We're all at risk because of the open border policy of this administration, and it has to be fixed. They got to get the incentives right. People cannot continue to come to the United States and be released by authorities on their own recognizance or not encountered at all by law enforcement. If we keep encouraging this, we're putting everyone at risk, including the migrants themselves.
Yeah, well, and again, we keep seeing these stories over and over, and that heartbreaking, you know, tractor trailer full of migrants, more than 50 dead, abandoned. The driver was on meth, and he's driving those migrants, and they suffocated. And you know, but Mayorkas doesn't want to acknowledge that. They don't want to talk about it. They want to act like it's not happening, and it is. Ronald Vitiello, thank you very much for being here this morning. We appreciate it.